All right. Diving in today, King Bhumibol Adulyadej.
Of Thailand.
Right, of Thailand. You were asking about world leaders.
That was.
And this guy, let me tell you, 70 years. King for 70 years. That's
The longest reign.
in Thai history, yeah. I mean, that's longer than, well, most people live, right?
Yeah.
Think of all the changes in the world in that time. He wasn't just, some figurehead.
No.
Really had a hand in shaping Thailand politically.
Absolutely.
So to really get into all this, I've got, an expert here with us today on Southeast Asian history and monarchies.
That's me.
What's the first thing that jumps out at you about this king's story?
Well, probably that he wasn't born in Thailand at all.
Oh.
Yeah, Cambridge, Massachusetts.
No kidding.
Yeah, his father was at Harvard.
Studying?
Public health.
Public health, wow. So king of Thailand, but born an American.
Yeah, unusual start.
You think that upbringing, even though it was probably brief, had any influence on him later on?
It's a good question. I mean, it gets even more unusual. He wasn't even supposed to be king.
He wasn't.
Second son.
Huh.
So, yeah, his path to becoming king,
Yeah.
definitely not a straight line.
Okay, all right. So how does someone born in Cambridge, Massachusetts end up the longest reigning king in Thai history?
Well, it's kind of story of unexpected turns, I guess you could say. Thailand, in the early 1900s, lots of political change.
Really?
Oh, yeah. 1932, they had a revolution, ended the absolute monarchy, went constitutional.
Huh.
Young Bhumibol, he was right in the middle of all that.
And that's what took him to Switzerland?
For safety, yeah.
Yeah.
He and his siblings sent to Switzerland, all this political turmoil going on. It's quite a picture,
Yeah.
Future king of a Southeast Asian nation.
Yeah.
But growing up in Europe.
Hmm.
Must shape how he saw the world.
Totally different cultures.
Right, totally. Systems of government, everything.
It's almost like a Prince and the Pauper thing, except instead of switching with someone, he's in both worlds.
Yeah.
Ancient traditions of Thailand and then modern Europe.
Right.
And then tragedy, right?
Yeah.
His older brother, King Ananda Mahidol.
Dies mysteriously.
Yeah, what happened there?
Well, 1946, Ananda's found dead.
Yeah.
Shot in the head in his bedroom.
Oh, wow.
Never fully solved.
Really?
Murder, suicide, accident. Nobody knows for sure. There were investigations, but never any real answer.
So Bhumibol becomes king with all that hanging over him.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. And that's when he meets Sirikit.
His future queen, yeah.
Yeah.
He was studying in Switzerland, but went to Paris a lot.
Paris.
Yeah, and that's where they met. She was the daughter of the Thai ambassador to France.
I gotta say, in the middle of all this heavy stuff, it's kind of a nice image.
It is, yeah.
Young king falling in love in Paris.
The classic romance.
Was it love at first sight or?
Seems like it, yeah, from what everyone says.
Yeah.
But their romance wasn't all smooth sailing. 1948, Bhumibol has a bad car accident in Switzerland. Pretty serious injuries, lost an eye. Sirikit was right there with him the whole time, helping him recover.
That must have really, cemented things.
I think so. That shared experience, went through something difficult together.
Yeah.
People say it really deepened their bond, which, looking ahead, all the political turmoil.
Yeah.
They needed that strong connection.
Because it sounds like the fairy tale, about to run into some very real problems.
Oh, yeah.
Thai politics at that time.
Anything but stable.
Yeah.
Bhumibol's reign.
Yeah.
It was long, but man, a lot of coups.
Ooh.
Military coups, yeah. Dictatorships, one after the other.
So how does this guy, American-born, educated in Europe, finds love in Paris?
Yeah.
How does he handle all that?
That's where things get really interesting, yeah. Talk about trial by fire, right?
Seriously. Becomes king, all that mystery around his brother's death, and then all this political chaos. What was his, approach? Was there even a strategy, or was he just reacting to everything?
Well, at first he didn't have a ton of power,
Right, the monarch.
had been limited after that 1932 revolution. The military, they held most of the cards.
So how does he go from basically a figurehead to what people call the soul of the nation? There had to be some turning point.
There was. 1973.
Okay.
Huge student protests in Bangkok. They wanted democratic reforms, end of military rule. Huge. Thousands of people in the streets.
Oh, wow.
And, well, the
So
military.
it didn't just back down, did they?
No. Cracked down violently. The Thammasat University massacre.
I've heard of that. Yeah, awful.
Hundreds of students killed or just disappeared.
So this is where Bhumibol steps up.
Yeah. He did something pretty unexpected. Opened the palace gates, offered refuge to the students who were fleeing.
Wow.
Imagine that. The king defying the military to protect his people.
Powerful image.
It was. And it had big consequences.
Yeah, I bet. What did it do to his relationship with the military? How did people see him after that?
Well, for the people, it was huge. He became a protector, the benevolent king, risking himself for them. His popularity went way up, not just some distant figure anymore. He was a moral authority.
Yeah.
That's when that Dharma Raja idea really took hold.
Dharma Raja.
Righteous king.
Oh, right. So he finds his voice, becomes this Dharma Raja. Does that calm things down politically?
Doesn't really.
Yeah.
Thailand, there were still more coups, even after 73.
Yeah.
But Bhumibol's role, it had changed. Now he was trying to mediate, guide things toward a more peaceful path.
Instead of just writing it out.
Right.
Any examples of that?
Yeah, fast forward to 1992, Black May.
Okay.
Again, big protests, pro-democracy, military cracks down again. This time Thailand almost had a civil war.
Oh, man.
And Bhumibol, he does something really incredible.
What'd he do?
He calls the coup leader and the opposition leaders to the palace. Televised audience. Millions of people watching.
No way.
He's there in simple white clothes, and he basically scolds both sides. Tells them to figure it out peacefully.
On live TV.
On live TV.
That's gutsy. Did it work?
Most people agree, yeah. His intervention, it de-escalated the whole thing. The coup leader resigned. They had new elections. Civilian rule came back. That moment solidified Bhumibol's image. Not just a symbol anymore, but a force for peace, for democracy.
So from sheltering students to, dressing down the military on TV, he really wasn't afraid to get involved.
He wasn't. But important to remember, not everyone agreed with his approach.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Some people felt he was too close to the military, that he could have pushed back against them harder. It's complicated. Some argue maybe his influence behind the scenes prevented things from being even worse, that he had to be careful to protect the monarchy itself. Others think he had so much popularity he could have pushed for bigger changes, more democratic reforms. It's a debate that's still going on today.
Yeah, I can see that. It's tough judging any historical figure, especially someone who is in power for that long with all that going on around them.
It is. Can't just label him a hero or a villain. He was a man doing his best in a tough situation, making choices, often with not a lot of good options.
We've talked about all the politics, the coups, but his influence went beyond that, right? Wasn't he big on rural development?
He was, yeah.
What was the driving force there?
I think it goes back to that Dharma Raja thing. He saw it as his duty to help all Thais, especially in rural areas, the people who were often forgotten.
Makes sense.
He traveled all over to these remote villages, listened to people's concerns, and then started projects to address those needs.
So not just sitting in his palace making pronouncements.
But not at all. He was out there with the people.
Was there a main focus for those development projects?
He was really into agricultural innovation, irrigation systems, flood control, infrastructure. And he wasn't just, giving orders. He was in the details, technical stuff. Came up with new solutions based on, well, he was kind of an engineering buff.
King and engineer.
And very concerned about the environment. Sustainable development. It's a side of him people don't always remember.
It makes him more human, doesn't it?
I think so. Beyond the king, the politics, he was a complex person.
And wasn't he a musician too? Jazz.
Oh, yeah. Played saxophone, composed music, even played with, Benny Goodman.
No kidding.
Yeah, it wasn't just a hobby. Music was a way to connect with people, be creative, bridge cultures.
So you've got the king, the engineer, the jazz musician. It all comes together to make this larger-than-life figure.
Exactly. And it's all those unexpected sides of him that make him so interesting to learn about. He didn't fit into any neat box. Defied expectations. That's probably part of why people are still fascinated by him, both in Thailand and around the world.
We've covered a lot, but politics, coups, development, even jazz. But there's one part of his legacy we haven't really talked about, and it might be his most lasting contribution, his philosophy of sufficiency economy. What can you tell us about that?
This is where he really goes beyond being just a king.
Yeah.
Gets into philosophy, economics, sufficiency economy. It wasn't just a theory for him, it was a way of life. He actively promoted it as a guide for how to develop sustainably and how to live a good life.
This sounds really relevant today with climate change, resource issues, inequality, all that.
Yeah, very much so.
So what are the core ideas?
Basically, it's about moderation, self-reliance, Being resilient when things change, live within your means, think long-term, build communities that can handle ups and downs.
It's almost the opposite of, just constant economic growth. More, 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 all that.
Yeah, I see that. Bhumibol, he saw the problems with too much materialism, the social costs, the environmental costs of just letting globalization run wild. He thought real progress wasn't just about money, but about well-being for people, for society, for the environment.
Was this widely accepted in Thailand while he was king?
It's hard to say for sure how much impact it had. Some people thought it was too idealistic, not practical in a fast-growing country. Others criticized it, saying it was a way for the elite to stay on top, while telling everyone else to be content with less. But what's interesting is that sufficiency economy, it's become more popular recently, especially with younger people.
Really?
Yeah, I think they're dealing with the effects of climate change, inequality, uncertainty, all those things Bhumibol was talking about.
Makes sense. Moderation, resilience, community solutions.
Mhm.
Those ideas, they seem more important now than ever.
And that's how it goes with powerful ideas. They outlive their time and then come back around in new ways.
And that, I think, is just one piece of Bhumibol's legacy. Complex, multifaceted, and people will probably still be debating it for a long time.
Yeah, it's amazing how much his ideas, they connect with what we're dealing with now. Like he saw it coming.
It did. He was worried about those things, even back then. Saw how fast development could be good economically, but
also mess things up. Yeah. Traditional ways of life, communities, strain on resources.
so not anti-development, but
More mindful, balanced, thinking about the long term, people and the planet.
exactly. And I think that's what appeals to people today, looking for a different way than just, more, more, more.
It is a different way. Sufficiency economy, it's not just personal choices, it's about systems, policies that make sustainability a priority. Fairness, resilience.
He was. I mean, more than just a king, right? Philosopher, engineer, musician, development advocate.
He wore a lot of hats. That's what makes him so fascinating. He didn't fit any easy category. Full of contradictions, living in a world that was always changing, embodied those tensions, tradition versus modernity, power versus service.
For someone who's just learning about him, what's the big takeaway about his impact on Thailand?
I'd say it's important to realize his reign wasn't just about politics or economics. It was about shaping an identity for Thailand. His image was everywhere. Money, schools, temples, homes. He was a symbol of unity, of what it meant to be Thai.
Wow. More than just a ruler, he was like part of the country itself.
You could say that. And that kind of influence over 70 years. It makes his legacy really complicated. People revere him, but there's also scrutiny, especially now. He's gone. His son's on the throne.
Yang Vajiralongkorn.
Right. And I think Thailand is still figuring out how to relate to Bhumibol's legacy.
Yeah. Like they miss him, the stability he represented, the moral authority.
There is that nostalgia, but at the same time, there are Thais, especially younger ones, who are questioning things. His relationship with the military, whether the monarchy itself, is still the right thing for the 21st century.
So it's not just simple hero worship.
No, it's much more nuanced than that. It's got layers, and it's still changing, just like Thailand is changing.
That's what makes it so interesting, I guess.
It does. His story, it's not just history. It's like a mirror to Thailand's own journey.
Right.
Coming to terms with the past, dealing with the present, trying to create a future.
This has been incredible. What a life. American birth, the jazz, navigating coups, rural development, the Dharma Raja sufficiency economy. It's hard to wrap your head around it all.
He was definitely one of a kind.
Anyone listening, if this got you interested in Thailand or monarchy or just how someone can live through so much change and still have such an impact.
Keep exploring.
Yeah, keep digging. There's always more to learn.
That's the thing about history. It's a conversation that never really ends. And King Bhumibol, his story will be part of that conversation for a long time.
Well, thank you for joining us and for sharing all your knowledge. It's been a pleasure having you.
My pleasure.
And to our listener, until next time, keep those deep dive requests coming.